Welcome to a special episode of Cosmic Road. We have special guest Nico on. Welcome to the show, Nico.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much for coming. Nico has corroborative information about John Stewart's story of the Lockheed Martin UFO firefight. So he's going to explain that to us and walk us through it in his investigations. And we're also going to talk about some other stuff. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. How are you doing today, Nico?
Very good today. Thank you.
And by the way, for those of you who haven't seen the interview that I did with Nico, a two-part interview a few months ago, I highly recommend checking that out. Fascinating information. Nico, whose full name he prefers to remain anonymous, but I know who he is, and he is a very successful tech entrepreneur. And he has had an amazing investigation into exploring some of the secrets of the UFO Control Group, or the program, as he calls it. Is that a fair way of saying that, or how else? What would you prefer to say?
That's exactly it. I identify myself as a ufologist. It's not something that I chose. But to keep it a very long story short, a 9 year story short, in 2006, I was introduced to a few people who allegedly worked who were part of a program. They were involved with you know, studies of alien technologies. That's what they claimed anyway. And I was introduced to this world thanks to a very wealthy entrepreneur, someone who invested in one of my companies in 2006. And I talked to quite a few, actually six people with firsthand knowledge and quite a few people with secondhand knowledge. So through that experience, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and I've never come forward. I've never really been interested in being public with information. I only gave one interview on your channel a few weeks ago,
Thank you very much.
and but Grush changed my mind. So I'm currently writing a book about everything that I know. And as I say, I'm not. I'm the intent is not to make a lot of money. To be clear, I'm not expecting to sell a lot of copies, but it's just, Grush's interview and hearing in front of Congress was pure vindication for me, and I felt like he had the courage to come forward with the information, and so I should kind of do the same thing.
Well, I'm really glad that you are, and I can't wait to read the book. And I'm really grateful for your information, confirming the presence of an international operation that does UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering, that's seemingly spearheaded by the U.S. Is that? Did you see any international components of it?
Oh yeah, I actually I talked to six people with firsthand knowledge. Only two of them were American. Both of them died. But based on my 9 year research, it's a very international thing, very international organization. But yeah, it is mostly controlled by the U.S., obviously for obvious reasons. But a lot of people around the world are involved in the program, based on what I've been told. Yeah.
And you have learned some information, or during your investigation, you learned some information that corroborates part of John Stewart's story about the Lockheed Martin firefight. Is that, I don't think, Lockheed Martin was named, but can you walk us through the information that you were able to glean?
Yes, actually, there's also I also have some information about the alien interview thing he shared a few months ago. But
Terrific.
regarding
And I
the
have some new
validity,
information about the alien interview too. So, okay, let's talk about all of that. All right, let's start with the
good.
Lockheed Martin firefight, or the firefight that you're aware of, and then we'll go through the alien interview stuff.
Yeah, I saw. To be clear, I don't know John Stewart. I only talked to him last week, thanks to you. He's not a friend of mine. I mean, I like the guy, but we don't have a long history together. I only talked to him for about an hour last week, so I have no vested interest in defending him. I'm just offering some corroboration because he did offer some to me on many levels. So anyway, regarding the what he said a few weeks ago. Yes. So in 2007, I talked to three people who allegedly were involved in reverse engineering of alien technology. And in passing, one of them told me that in 2007, someone in passing said that a couple of years earlier, there was a gunfight between a contractor, people hired by a contractor and the government, the US government, because they were trying to retrieve a shut down spacecraft. And there was a miscommunication because the government didn't know that the private contractor was the entity responsible for building the spacecraft, which was kind of an imitation of alien technology. I don't know who the contractor was. I don't know where, I know it was in the US, but I don't know exactly where it was. But it's a very similar story. So that's why I decided to come forward again.
Was the government party or entity that engaged in the firefight named? I think John Stewart said it was JSOC that was fighting
No,
Lockheed Martin.
no, but in 2007, as I said, I was told that 2 years before that. So it was early 2007. So 2 years before that could have been 2004, 2005. So it's kind of the same date that John shared. So it sounds to me like it's a very it's sounds like it's the same story. And by the way, I was told that it happened before as well. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of details, but I think it's kind of the same story is what I'm
Wait,
trying
so
to say.
there have been previous firefights?
Yeah, yes, because I was told that unfortunately a lot of contractors who have access to these technologies don't always communicate with the government because they do their own thing. And by the way, once again, apparently the program the US is involved with is not a US program. They do their own thing as well, but the program is an international collaboration. But obviously, the US, they do their own crash retrievals as well and everything. So it's very complex because I usually call it the program, but I should really call it the programs because, different governments probably do their own thing. They have this international collaboration, and each contractor also they also do their own thing.
Yeah, yeah. From what I'm seeing, what I call the UFO Control Group, that sounds monolithic, but really the UFO Control Group is anything but monolithic. There are
Yeah.
all sorts of different facets to it, and some of them may be opposed to each other, and there may be tension between those various groups. And one of them may be a rogue, evil. Maybe one of them is actually not as bad. Maybe even a good group. And,
Yeah.
maybe one of these groups is responsible for what's going on in Peru. Who knows? Who knows? That's just speculation. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But somebody with UFO tech is doing that. So, and it may be
I agree. I tend to agree. I don't have proof that that's what's happening in Peru, but yeah, I tend to believe that. Based on what I've been told, it would make sense.
Yeah, yeah. And the information that I shared about the missing 411 case, where the remote viewer was getting that it was to harvest, it sounds, I mean, it's indelicate to talk about, real victims of these horrible attacks, the missing 411 phenomenon, but they were harvesting material to increase human potential like psychic abilities. I don't
Yeah.
know how you could get that from murdering people and taking organs. But could it be something similar to that that's going on in Peru with the face peelers? The locals think that they're interested in organ trafficking. Well, to me, that doesn't make any sense because if you've got UFOs, you're not going to need to raise money by organ harvesting, I wouldn't think. But if you're harvesting organs for a different purpose, then that would begin to make some sense. So anyway, again, that's just wild speculation, a different subject. Okay, so back to the firefight. There have been previous firefights.
Yeah.
Do we know if it's the same contractor engaging with firefights each time, or are there different contractors? Is Boeing and Raytheon also fighting with the government over these things?
I I don't know for sure. The person who said that to me was only involved with one contractor. Unfortunately, I don't know which one it was, but he was only talking about this specific contractor. But there's no reason to think that it would not happen with another one, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, so the implications of all of that are crazy and huge, right?
Yeah,
Uh, you know, Lockheed Martin has soldiers that have a license to kill, first of all. And second, when they do kill somebody, I mean, we don't know the full story. Maybe if this story actually happened, were there any arrests associated with it? There were two deaths in JSOC, according to John's story. Were the shooters arrested? Now, if it was like an honest firefight because they didn't know who each other were, maybe manslaughter or whatever. Maybe it's not murder, or it's soldiers fighting in the line of duty or what have you. But it does seem to indicate a certain I don't want to say sovereign power, but a certain autonomous ability of Lockheed to operate and actually engage in firefights with people. And that the implications of that are really weird. And I don't know
yes,
how to reconcile that. And so, do other companies have the same thing? Of course, we don't know. Is Are other government agencies also engaged in this? If JSOC is part of this, who else? The Department of Energy. Who else is engaging in these sort of crash retrievals? We know now that the CIA has their own program. What was Operation? Do you remember the name of that offhand? That we just learned about
yeah,
that. But
yeah,
that's a new program that began in the 2000s, and surely that's a continuation or a new program. But surely the CIA has been involved in this before then.
yeah,
So have they been doing their own, crash retrievals? It seems very likely to me.
yeah.
Um, okay, so let's go to a different subject. Do we have any
Sorry,
information? Okay, do you have
sorry,
any
Jack.
thoughts on do you have any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add a few things. First of all, there's a lot more crash retrievals than what people might think. It's a lot more common than what people think. That's what I was told. And just to remind your viewers, I've talked to a lot of people in this field. I didn't really choose this path. I would say the path chose me. I spent a bit more time during my last interview, and I explained a bit more why I got involved in this field. But another thing I want to say is that based on my research, based on what I know, I'm not really convinced that the US government or Congress is interested in um, forcing private companies to give them access to the technology so that they can share it with the public. They can share information with the public. I'm not convinced that's what's going on. I think they lost control of the alien tech decades ago, and the private contractors do absolutely whatever they want, and the government wants to retain control. But I don't think that the U.S. government is necessarily interested in sharing anything with the public. I don't think so. They lost control of it, and they want to gain control of everything or most of what private companies do because they do whatever they want. I've been told some really crazy stories about the technologies these private companies have access to. I'm not saying that anything I was told is true. I'm just sharing what I've some of the things that I was told. I don't know if it's true. It could be disinformation. I don't know. In this field, as you know, it's always hard to know if what you're being told is true or not. But I do
Sad but
believe
true.
that, yeah, but I do believe that a lot of that is true for sure.
Well,
And
I just have to add that I have similar thoughts, that could kind of explain the Schumer Rounds Amendment. If the government had lost control of this technology, then they would want to exert eminent domain over these companies so they could retrieve it.
Yeah.
So, the Schumer Rounds Amendment could be less of a UFO Disclosure Act and more of a, different parts of the control group warring against each other kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again,
That's exactly my belief. Yeah.
just speculation, but it does make a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
I want to think
So,
well of the Schumer Rounds Amendment because I really want UFO disclosure.
of
But
course.
the conspiratorial part of me, paranoid part of me, that's familiar with the history of the cover up, uh, you know,
Yeah.
is that really what's going on or not? I don't know.
This is why I say during the my last interview with you, this is why I say that I believe that disclosure is only going to come from people, private people. It's not going to come from the government. I don't think that there's any will in the government to share the information with the public. I really don't think so. It's private citizens who can bring disclosure, and obviously that's another debate. I know a lot of people are not interested in the Nazca mummies, but that's another form of disclosure.
That is absolutely
It
100% disclosure,
yeah,
Nico. I love it. I
yeah,
can't wait to see the giant bodies or the gray Nazca or any other research they can bring to bear on those bodies. They're going to do a autopsy. An independent team is doing an autopsy. That
yeah,
is 100% UFO disclosure. Those
yeah.
guys
I
do
agree,
not.
and I think people should keep their mind open about it. They should not. I know the Nazca mummies look like cake. I know they look fake,
Well, see
and
that's where the giant bodies will really come in handy because
I
you look at
agree.
a tiny little body, your first instinct is it's a doll. And so,
Yeah.
you get some disinformation that in fact it is a doll and that corroborates your own beliefs. But they're not going to have that with the giant body.
No, and I once again, I think people were not convinced that these mummies could be or used to be living creatures. Should just keep an open mind, I think.
I hope they do. I hope they do because the Nazca mummies are maybe the most exciting thing that's ever happened to ufology. And,
I agree.
people are just ignoring it, largely. But I
They're
think it's starting to
freaking
trickle out.
bodies.
What was that?
They're freaking bodies.
They're freaking bodies.
In front of cameras, we've never had that. So once again, people should keep an open mind. And I'm aware that Mosan has, let's say, a shady past. My view is that he believes in a really wide range of things. He throws a lot of people against the wall, and he sees what sticks. But at the end of the day, people should care about the data. And it wasn't even Mosan that made these mummies known publicly. It was a French guy.
Well, it's not
Um,
Jaime Maussan that did the test on them. He's just the
no,
showman.
exactly.
He's just bringing this to our attention.
And I think he's doing a good job at that. But unfortunately, because of his past, a lot of people dismiss the Nazca mummies. But once again, they should keep an open mind.
Okay, returning now to the okay, so we've done the Lockheed Martin firefight. I did want to have I had one other additional question about that. So private contractors, they seem to have UFOs. What are they doing with these UFOs?
That's a very good question. I don't know the full extent. I've been told a lot of things, but it's mostly R&D. Okay, so when you do R&D, you have access to these crazy technologies. First of all, I've been told that it's you reverse engineering them is a huge challenge for many reasons. Because if you want to build a spacecraft, an alien, or reproduce an alien spacecraft, there's many ways you can do it, right? You can use our own materials and just try to imitate the propulsion system. But if you really want to make your craft as effective as some of them, you need a totally different type of materials. And that's where the biggest challenge is, because they apparently their technology is they can basically they can assemble molecules and atoms on in a way that we can do, and we'll probably not be able to do that in the next few hundred years. So that's why it's been a big challenge. I've been told about a lot of technologies we've still managed to replicate. I've been told about teleportation, which is not really what people think. It's more like apparently we have a technology to move things from one place to another through different dimensions. We have transdimensional technologies. We have some really advanced medical technologies. We have some mind reading technologies. We have the ability to build clones. Apparently we have really, really advanced technology. So these private contractors have been doing a lot of R&D. Why they don't share that information with the public, I don't fully know. I've been told that they're not allowed to by the beings. I don't know if that's true. As a businessman, I don't fully understand if you had the ability to monetize these technologies, if you didn't have any restrictions, you would do it. So I'm aware that some of the technologies we have been are the result of alien tech. I don't know if that's true, but they could patent a lot more things for sure and monetize a lot more things. So there must be a reason why these techs are not public. There must be a reason.
Okay, now I've got a question about disinformation. All right, so when I was talking to John, I believe John, I believe he's telling the truth as he knows it. But I do question the information that he was given because it's a great story for the government. They look really good in this. It's the evil contractors. They have all the technology. They're shooting at us. They're killing our guys. They're the ones running around in UFOs and doing whatever. We're perfectly innocent government people just doing our thing. Sure, we know about it and we were going to retrieve it, but we're the victims and it's the contractors are the bad guys. It would be a very convenient story for the government to put out there. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's this really happened, and that maybe I'm just too paranoid?
Well, as I said, I was told the same thing. So personally, I have no reason to doubt that what John is saying is not true because I was told the same thing. But maybe I was told a lie too. It's possible. I told you in this field, it's extremely hard to know if what you're being told is true or not. But I think what helps is corroboration. When you hear the same story from different people, that story is more likely to be real. But disinformation is a big, big problem. And I investigated almost full time, almost. I had full time jobs, but I spent a lot of money and a lot of time traveling the world and talking to a lot of people who claim they have first hand or second hand knowledge. And you always ask yourself, was I told a lie? Always. Even if five or six people tell you the same story, you don't know if it's true. And in 2015, I was tired because I was sitting on a huge amount of information. And back then in 2015, not many people were talking about, crash retrieval and reverse engineering of alien tech. So I thought to myself, what am I going to do with all this information? And at the time, I had a lot of doubts that what I was told was real. And once again, Grush um, he represented an epiphany for me. I realized, damn, what I was told might be true. So one of the things I was told is the same story John shared.
That's fascinating. I love it. Thank you so much for bringing that to us, Nico. I really appreciate it. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the alien interview.
Yeah.
So before we get into your information about it, I just wanted to share. John had sent me a picture of Victor. The mysterious figure that leaked this footage to us in the first place. He's been his identity has been speculated about for many years. And many people think it's Robert Dean or Bob Dean, the famous ufologist. People have different ideas about who it is. Well, according to the picture that John sent me, it's not Bob Dean. It's somebody we've never seen before. He's got a beard. He's got big dark glasses. It's really hard to see a lot of details about him, but he's younger than Bob Dean. And that's all I can really say. He's a guy with a beard, but not Bob Dean. Somebody we've never seen before. So that's the information I have about Victor. If that's really Victor, it's some unknown person, and it does seem to be actually Victor. So, but you have some corroborative information possibly about the alien interview that John is famous for sharing and for corroborating.
Yes. Yes, between 2006 and 2015, as I said, I talked to a lot of people with first-hand and second-hand knowledge. And in 2006, I talked to a person, an American individual, someone who claimed he worked on crash retrieval sites. And he showed me a few videos of alien interviews that he believed, well, he told me were real. And one of the videos was the same being that was in the video John Stewart shared with. Um, John wasn't the first person to share the video, right? It
No,
was
no,
shown
it was out. It
publicly
was already out,
years ago.
but he
Yeah,
was corroborating the reality of it, and he had spent years tracking down people that were in the making of it, and participated in that
yeah,
interview. So yeah,
yeah.
just to clarify.
So in 2006, I was shown a different video, I think it was a 1 hour video. I didn't spend an hour on it, but I know it lasted for an hour. Different lighting. It was still quite dark in the dark room, but we could see a few more people in the room. And I was told some of the names, not all the names, but some of the names of the people in the room. And so I remember I saw the video in 2006, and the first thing I thought was that it's fake.
Me too.
Because the problem with videos of UFOs and aliens is that most people have never seen an alien, right, or UFO. If you see the autopsy of a cow, or the interview, if you like, of a cow, obviously you've seen many cows in your life, so you have a reference point. But when it comes to aliens, it's so weird and so different that it's really hard for your brain to accept that what you're seeing is alien. That's exactly what's happening with the Nazca mummies, right? People have this mental representation of what an alien should look like, and if what they're seeing is not, if there's no match, they don't think it's an alien. That's exactly what happened to me in 2006. So when I saw the video, I had a lot of doubts. But basically, I was told the same thing John shared. So I was told that the beings were kind of the biological robots. I was told they were an extension of a craft. They were actually part of a craft. I know it's strange for us because for us in the plane, there's the body of a plane, and there's a computer or set of computers in the plane. But apparently, I was told that this being was retrieved in a crash in the Kalahari Desert in the 90s, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
that's a well-known case. Some people think
Okay.
it happened, some people think it don't. I actually shared some animation showing
Oh,
how it
yeah.
may have played out on the channel
Yeah.
maybe a couple months ago. But yeah,
Yeah.
a well-known crash.
Yeah, so I was told it came from a crash in the Kalahari Desert. I was told that these beings apparently they don't eat anything. They didn't know how to feed the thing because apparently it doesn't eat. I was told it doesn't have any genitals. So they're basically biological machines, and they are part of a craft.
Well,
It's a strange concept.
That's exactly what Colonel Philip J. Corso said in
Okay.
the book The Day After Roswell, which is one of the most famous UFO books. And we can debate the accuracy of some of the information in there, but the general thrust of it seems to be accurate. And there's a whole chapter talking about the autopsy of one of these beings from the Roswell crash, and how the doctors and the scientists looking at it determined that it would really function as part of the ship.
Oh,
It
okay.
wore a micro thin suit over its body that interacted with the alien's body. And it all was designed to work in the field generated by the ship. So the suit and the being's body was designed to work with the suit. It was designed to work with the ship. And it was all integrated together as one part of one unit in a way. And really fascinating information, and that's borne
Yeah.
out by other accounts as well. This idea that the beings are almost an extension of the ship, if you will, and the ship itself is alive in its own way.
Yeah, apparently the technology is sentient. It's so strange, and I just want to to tell your audience that I'm 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 not as educated as you on the topic of ufology. I know
You've been peering
also.
behind the scenes for years. Now you take it, man. You take it.
Yeah, but I don't read about about ufology. I don't read that much, so I don't. I'm not really that educated. I only trust um, what people tell me face to face. Let's put it that way. And just to share with your audience, I'm hopefully going to interview another person who allegedly flew around the moon in a secret plane built in the US. And he also allegedly saw a gray up close. So I don't know if that's
He
true.
saw a gray alien up close,
Yeah.
and
And
he's going to tell
that's
you
the
about it.
thing, hopefully.
And
But
this
that's the
was
thing.
a living gray.
Yeah, a living gray. And that's the thing about what I did between 2006 2015. I sat down with people face to face. That's the only way for me to really judge whether someone is telling the truth or not. Obviously, I had to read a little bit about the topic, obviously. And during my first interview, I also said that I saw a triangle shaped UFO in the south of France. And I also handled some alien technologies in my hand. So my crusade was not only based on beliefs. I'm an experiencer, and I've touched some alien tech. So to go back to the alien interview, it was really exciting for me to see what John shared publicly. I think he was on Redacted last year. It was a huge moment for me because I thought to myself, what? That video was real? Because I was told the same thing, but deep down I felt it's too crazy to be true. And John offered me some corroboration. I loved it, and this is why I'm agreeing to talk to you today and offer some corroboration as well, because it's a good feeling to
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
that
Well,
someone else
John
was
definitely
giving the
got some
same info.
heat. John definitely
Yeah,
got some
I
heat
know
for
he
some of
did.
this information, and so I'm sure he'll appreciate you coming forward to confirm parts of it.
Good, good. So yeah, so apparently that interview is real. I was told he's real. I had my doubts, but and there's still part of me that's questioning whether or not it's real. But yeah, it looks like it
Did you
is.
get
John
any
spent a lot of time on it.
Did you get any more information about the being in that interview, or
Yeah.
what his deal was? What did it have to say?
Okay. So I should probably have gone through my notes because as you know, I wrote a lot of notes. I was never allowed to record people. I was never allowed to film them in any way. But I was allowed to write down notes. So I have hundreds of pages of notes, including also obviously some background research I did. But so yeah, so this creature was retrieved from the Kalahari Desert. It was alive. Some of the beings died. Apparently, he was not afraid to die. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure if it was sentient, but I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, two people in the room were able to communicate with the being, and they don't call it telepathy. They call it thought projection. I think I was told that they use that terminology instead because telepathy would mean there's communication brain to brain, but that's not what's happening. And that's when you go into the more who part of the phenomenon, because apparently I was told that we are more than just a body, that consciousness is not created by the brain. And that's why remote viewing is possible. You don't actually use your brain to remote view. You basically connect the true nature of who you actually are, and that nature, I was told, we are it's hard to explain, but we like pure consciousness, and that consciousness is connected to the consciousness field. In physics, physicists believe that the most elementary particles are actually fields, and that's what consciousness is apparently. So you have access to everything in time and space. And so that's how you're able to communicate with a being that comes from another solar system or from another dimension. That's what I was told. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah.
It doesn't
So
sound
this is
crazy to me
it's
at
called
all.
fault projection because
Okay,
it's
so
not
can you
the
take
body
us
is not
through?
involved.
Can you take us through the difference between thought projection and telepathy? Is it just because the body is not involved and it's more of like a remote viewing kind of thing? Uh,
Yes. Basically, yeah, it's very similar to remote viewing. I was explaining because one of the first question I asked is because I was shown a few other videos as well of different types of beings, and none of these beings actually talked. Obviously, they didn't talk English. They didn't speak English. They didn't speak French. So how do you communicate with a creature that comes from another solar system or another dimension? So, as I said, fault projection. So the idea is that you need human beings with some psychic abilities. We are all psychics. It's a spectrum. It's a bit like, running. Some people can run the 100 meters in 9:58, like Usain Bolt. But most of us can run the 100 meters in 12, 13, or 15 meters, but most of us can still cover the distance, right? So I think based on what I was told, it's the same with our projections. We are all able to do it, but we don't all have the same ability. So apparently, some of us have natural abilities, right? These natural abilities can be enhanced with DMT and other types of drugs. And so for this specific alien in the famous alien interview, they tried a few human beings, I was told, and I think two of them, if I'm not mistaken, it was two or three. I'm not sure. I would need to go back to the notes, but I think it was two. Two human beings were able to actually communicate with a creature. And the idea of thought projection is very similar to remote viewing. You connect with your true nature, and that true nature can transcend time and space. And that's how you can connect with a being that doesn't speak your language, with a being that might not even see the world the way you see it. So it's kind of dreams of concepts that you exchange with the being. When
is it
telepathy would be communication from one brain to another brain, and I've never been told that's even possible. So
so is
might not be
this,
possible.
are you familiar with the concept of the higher self?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So would this be something like your higher self is communicating with the being's higher self, something like that?
Yes, yes. Because
Okay.
apparently, and I know it's quite a common word now, a common expression now, because Bigelow and many others have used it. Tom DeLonge as well. Apparently, we are soul containers. I'm not a religious person, but apparently the concept of soul is real. You can call it whatever you want. It can be what you said. It can be the soul. It can be whatever you want. But apparently, the body is only a shell. And so thought projection is the ability to connect to your true nature, and you connect to the other being's true nature, and that's how you can communicate. Because when you are in this realm, there's no language words pronounced, because it's just kind of like a dream world. So you just exchange concept IDs. That's what I was told. I know it sounds crazy.
Fascinating, Nico. I love it. Did you have anything else to share about the alien interview?
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I was told that he died a few months later, but he was never scared of dying. And obviously, a lot of people ask the question, and when I talk to people, I rarely don't talk about ufology with people around me because most people are not interested, or they don't believe, or they're scared, or whatever. But one of the first questions people usually ask me is, but if it's so advanced, how come they come over here and crash? There's so many explanations. And once again, people should keep an open mind because it's not because something doesn't make sense to you that it's not true, right? And I was told that these beings don't care about dying because to them it's just the body that dies. And some of them are biological entities, like born entities, and some of them are robots, but they can still connect to they can still how to explain an entity or a spirit, if you like, can still enter these bodies.
Well,
I know it sounds
that's
crazy,
my
but yeah.
understanding as well. And I've even heard it said, it's hard to corroborate any of this, but I've even heard a story where the Greys will manufacture bodies like their own for higher dimensional beings to come in and inhabit. So
Yeah,
whether that's like a robot-like body or not, an organic robot or not, can be operated by a being with a soul, if you will.
yeah.
According to that information. Now, hard to corroborate any of that, but I do tend to believe that.
You explained it better than me, and that's exactly what I was trying to say. Yes, I should remind people that I'm actually French. English is not my
No,
mother
you're
tongue.
doing great,
So
Nico. You're doing great.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's exactly what you said. Yes, and apparently, even spacecrafts can be inhabited by these beings or spirits.
Okay, so
It's
maybe you
not
can
only
explain that to
bodies.
me, Nico. So I've always wondered. So apparently, piloting one of these crafts requires somebody to consciously interact with the ship. It needs a
Yes,
pilot psychically interacting with it, but the ship
yes.
itself is alive. So why does it need a pilot?
It's okay. I don't have all the answers to be clear, but what I was told is that in order, one of the biggest, it took humans a long time to learn how to pilot these things because it's not, once again, it's not like Neuralink. Is it Neuralink?
Yeah,
Elon Musk is working on,
yeah.
because this
Just put
system,
in the
once
first
again,
brain implant.
yes, it uses electric signals in the brain. Okay, so that's something else. Apparently, what these machines, the way these machines operate, they need to be piloted by consciousness, like by the true nature of human beings. So it has nothing to do with the body. I don't have all the details. I don't know how it works, but apparently aliens have this tech. They can basically harness consciousness, and yeah, it sounds crazy. It's so advanced.
It sounds crazy, but it's borne out by a lot of the evidence. There,
It when you think about it, it kind of makes sense because how would a human brain pilot something that can go so fast, right? How could a human brain pilot something that can phase in and out of existence, can travel through over dimensions? How would it work? A brain is actually very limited, and a brain apparently is only like an interface and a biological machine that allows a being from higher dimensions to come to this universe and experience this universe. It's just a biological machine or interface, whatever you want to call it. That's what I was told. That's what we are. The body is only a way for a being who thrives and lives in higher dimensions to come here and experience our universe. It's a bit like in the Matrix. I don't know if you watch the first Matrix, but there's a scene where Morpheus is training Neo, and he says that he believes Neo can beat the agents because despite the fact that the agents are a product of the Matrix, they still have to obey the rules of the Matrix. So I think it's the same. A being from a higher dimension that comes here still needs to obey the rules of this universe, and that's why we need a body. I think that's basically what it is. That's what I was told.
great stuff, Nico. Do you have any final thoughts about all of this?
I have so many thoughts, but we're limited with time. Once again, I think people. I know a lot of ufologists. Um, only care about the nuts and bolt aspect of a phenomenon. And also, I know that most ufologists only want to focus on the positive aspects because I guess it's kind of scary to think that the phenomenon could be bad for us in any way. But once again, people need to understand that the phenomenon, based on what I've been told, is a lot more complex than what people think. And there are good aspects, there are bad aspects, and there's a lot of woo-woo science involved. There's a lot of stuff that is really, really strange. I've been told really weird things that I still haven't wrapped my head around some of the things I was told, but that the true nature of the universe, that the true nature of human beings, it's weird, and it's really weird, and it's a bit like if our universe is like yeah, it's the creation, it's like thoughts, it's like materialized thoughts. It's like the universe was created out of the thinking of beings in a higher dimension. It's really, really strange. I don't think people should be scared of even the negative aspect, because at the end of the day, I don't think there's much we can do about it. We don't get to decide what to do with what the universe really is, or what the intent of aliens are. We just, there's just not much we can do. So there's no reason to be scared. That's just how
Yeah,
it is.
don't be scared of the negative stuff because then you might attract it because a lot of the stuff is consciousness based. Now, but the parts that aren't, that are acting independently and that are like in the Colares incident, I don't think it was attacking those people because their vibes were too low or something. It was something independent attacking people for a purpose. But don't don't worry about that because you could actually draw stuff like that. You could attract the negative aspects of it, but you can definitely interact with the positive aspects of it. I've interacted with a good amount of the positive stuff. The woo woo parts of it. Even my UFO experience was a woo woo experience, but it was a really great experience. And but a lot of that really is more consciousness based, and so you'd want to align with that if at all possible. I recommend CE5, but don't go into it with fear or negativity. Or you want to go into it with positivity and love and openness for the brotherhood or sisterhood of the stars and our greater family in the cosmos and other dimensions. But anyway, I love the woo woo. I think my own experience is that it's very real, and I didn't believe in any of this a few years ago, and I went from an atheist and a materialist to an ardent, not a believer, but an experiencer of UFOs and the woo woo. Yeah, you had a thought, Nico?
Yeah, the last part is that based on what I've been told, there's a lot of things, positive, negative, but the bottom line is when we get disclosure, and I think we will. I think we're in the process of finding out what's really going on. I believe it's going to be very disruptive. I'm an entrepreneur. I see things from a business point of view, and it's going to mess up the fabric of our society on a cultural level, but also on an economic level. But I don't think the disruption is going to last for very long. I think we will adapt because we're good at adapting. And there might be a few years where the disruption is so bad that it messes up everything on this planet. But I think at the end of the day, after the storm, we will come out victorious. I think there will be, it will yield, it will create a much better world. I'm a parent. And one of the reasons why I'm interested in this topic is because I think it can help our world to evolve and improve, because we need to evolve and improve. There's so many problems on our planet, and as I say, disclosure is going to be a mess for a few years, but I think we will take something very positive out of the whole experience. So people should not be scared, even if they are scary elements.
All right, that is a great place to end on, I think. I know it's probably pointless to ask you if you have anything that you want to talk about, projects you're working on, or a place to contact you. But is there anything that you would like to say there?
No, I'm not really interested in being public, as I said. I work with really wealthy people. We're not involved in the topic, and I don't want them to feel any sense of shame. I respect them too much, but I told you I'm writing a book, and I'm also trying to. I have a longer term plan, but I will maybe one day come back to your channel and talk about it
Let's
because I
do it.
think the disclosure movement or or ufology should be better organized because our enemy, people in the control group, are way more organized than us. They have their own issues for
They're
sure
more
because
organized than I am, that's for sure.
yeah, and they're way more organized than I am. They're divided because I was told that some of them want disclosure, some of them don't want disclosure. That's why some of the information is allowed to go public. Think about it. Why is Grush allowed to say what is shared publicly? That's because some members of the control group want disclosure. So there are different factions. It's not a monolith. But it's going to be a tough fight. It's not going to be easy. And once again, I don't think we should rely on the American government or any other government. I'm trying to talk to more
I'm hoping for
people with
Mexico and
firsthand
Peru
knowledge.
personally, but yeah,
Yes, we'll see. We'll see what
we'll
happens. I'm
see.
hopeful.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. But even if they publicly come out and say, yes, these mummies are real, unfortunately, a lot of people are still not going to believe it.
Well, also, we do
We'll
need
see.
official U.S. disclosure because we need oversight of these black budget operations. If they are
Agree.
doing shady things like assassinations and stuff like that, we need to, they need oversight. So we do need official government disclosure. But there's nothing to stop disclosure, public disclosure happening right now. If everybody just went out and did CE5 and said kumbaya and we're interacting
Yes.
with the positive aspects of the phenomenon, there's boom, there's a disclosure, right?
Yeah.
So we don't need the government, but we do need oversight of those programs.
Yeah. I think a lot of people with first-hand knowledge are going to come forward. I'm trying to get some to talk publicly as well. And no one knows me, and that's fine. So it would probably work better if someone more publicly known did that. But I think the information is going to come out from people who were involved in the programs and want the information to come out. I think that's exactly what's happening now.
When you speak to this witness who interacted with the gray, will you be able to publicly talk about that?
It will be up to him.
Okay. Okay.
Based
Okay.
on what I know, he's probably okay for me to share some information, but it would be up to him. But I'm trying to find, I'm also in communication with others, and I hope at least some of them will allow me to share the information publicly, or even better, will be okay to talk publicly. And I will let you know. It might happen on your channel. We'll
All
see.
right. Teaser, guys. Teaser. Oh, thank you, Nico, for joining us. I loved it. I think the audience got a lot out of it. I hope they did. So thank you, Nico.
Thank you for having me.
And everybody, say hello to Nico and thank him for his time. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and all that kind of stuff. Subscribe. And you know the drill, guys. I will see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.